to part 1 of this bill.
I call the honourable member Tim McIndoe.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and I'm delighted to follow the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta. Of course, we represent the same area. Her electorate's a little bigger than mine, but we're in the same region. And in particular, to thank her for acknowledging that under this government, tax rates have come down, that under this government we have been focusing particularly on the needs of vulnerable New Zealanders, those on low and fixed incomes who have needed protection through the worst impacts of the current economic recession. And it's about focusing on the things that matter, Ms Chadwick, to New Zealanders, such as the huge improvements that Tony Ryle has secured in the health system, the fantastic work that Antolia is doing in the education system. But I need to come back to tax because that's what this is about. And Nanaia Mahuta reminded us of that old political principle that if you repeat a lie often enough, people will start to believe it. And that, frankly, is Labor's strategy at the moment. That's their entire plank in the current election year as they go down towards the 26th of November. They've got nothing to say that's positive. They haven't got a plan of anything that is credible. They haven't got any ideas of their own. So they're simply going to keep misrepresenting what's actually being done in the hope that enough people will believe it to get them over the line. In fact, Mr Chair, what that really represents is they've taken one of the oldest political maxims of all time and slightly adapted it: no taxation without misrepresentation. And that's the Labor Party mantra that we're now having to put up with. Well, Mr Chair, the really fascinating thing when you listen to Labor members is they never talk about the figures. They never actually get down to the detail. They hate that. It's always cuts here and Nationals' rich mates over there, but they never give you an honest analysis of who pays the tax, how is it used, and what is the overall impact of tax policy on commercial activity, encouraging savings and investment, and government spending. They love to do the spending, but they just can't get it right as to how you provide for that. Well, the first thing to remember, and the Minister in the Chair reminded of this when he took a call about half an hour ago, was that last year's tax package was essentially fiscally neutral. It was about rebalancing the overall tax imposition on all New Zealanders to create fairness. I'll repeat that word for Ms Chadwick because she's pretty concerned about it. To create fairness, give extra support to vulnerable New Zealanders, to stimulate investment in manufacturing, primary production, small and medium enterprises and so on, because they, Ms Chadwick, are the kinds of activities that protect and create jobs and generate wealth for this country. They generate wealth, and the Labor members can't stand that word. Next I'll be using profit, and I'll be hounded out of the House by the Hobbit haters and the Muppets and the Envy Brigade opposite. But actually profit's a pretty important thing to protect and to ensure you can get in an economy. So the tax switch last year is already playing an important role in building the platform for economic growth and putting more money in the pockets of low and middle income New Zealanders. Now, Labor hate the fact, Mr Chair, that most of last year's income tax reductions went to those on modest incomes, whom they profess to represent in this House. But when you listen to what they're actually saying on this bill, they have abandoned that completely. Mr Chair, as the Minister reminded us when he took the call, the Labor members never admit that the bottom two rates were reduced in last year's budget to the point where nearly 3/4 of the population pay a marginal tax rate of just 17.5%. So when the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta challenged me a short time ago about my constituents and how they are faring in the current conditions, I can tell her that most of the electors in Hamilton West who are on those middle incomes or lower incomes were absolutely delighted by that change, and I was pleased to be part of a government that delivered it for them. Because what a fantastic achievement that was, especially in the challenging economic circumstances that we inherited from the outgoing Labor government that had the best global conditions of any government for at least a generation and squandered the lot, blew it, spent irresponsibly, made no provision for the bad times that inevitably would come with economic cycles. They just blew the lot. Well, I want to say, Mr Chair, that we should celebrate what this national government and its support partners have been doing and is continuing to achieve. Labor avoids the figures, but the figures are quite clear. So let me return to the Deloitte analysis that Mr Woodhouse talked about a short time ago. In terms of total government revenue, the 2011-12 forecast is for $64.1 billion. The large majority of this, 47.4 billion will come from GST, corporate tax and individual income tax. So I'll just close. Mr Chair? No.
I call the honourable member,
No, sorry. I'll say first.
the Honourable Shane Jones. Tēnā